Now you're welcome to the second segment of this news edition today. I am having someone very unique with whom we're going to be talking today, and it's going to be about the two-shift system of education which has been introduced. It has actually been brought back to the system. You want to understand what actually been included assignment recently, so it's this school year which is going to go on, that we're going to find out how smooth and if it will go through smoothly. So we're going to have with us a wonderful person, someone who is good in the house already. You would have known him before now, Dr. Nick Ngwanyam. He's going to be talking with us so we get to understand better the system and how it has been throughout the period. Dr. Nick Ngwanyam, you're welcome.
Oh, thank you very much, and good evening to our listeners.
I hope it wasn't quite difficult getting here.
No, not really, but there's some roadworks going on, so it's very tricky.
Oh, I can understand that. Oh, you're welcome. We're talking about the two-shift system, of course, which was implemented since the COVID-19, that is, of 2020, and now it is actually getting to its end. So the minister, of course, has recently brought out a communique which shows that we're going to be putting an end to that system and go back to the traditional system which we knew before. How beneficial do you think the previous system was to the country regarding the situation?
No, it wasn't any good at all, I would say so. It was not good at all. And I think I'm glad that we were going back to something that probably was working. But before I came to the studio, I was meditating a lot about our educational system. Just to say that what we have in Cameroon and most African countries, we have a schooling system. It's not an educational system. There is a difference between that. If we were to compare what we are doing, our products cannot compete, against children from other schools, let's say in Finland, Germany, Holland, Japan, Israel, Singapore. Ours is not very good, and we must say it, because if we agree that it's not very good, then we are saying that there's a reason for change, and that when it comes to change, it means every stakeholder has to sacrifice something to do something about it. The government should do something about it, the parents and the children, because what we are calling education is not very good, and it doesn't make us competitive.
Some would of the impression, of course, the opinion that this system of education has been very rich because of the fact that it helped their children stay clear of the coronavirus pandemic. But now, despite the fact that this all happened, it helped them stay off, there were some hiccups. What do you think was one of the major kind of hiccups that came up as a result of the system of education?
You would realize that when we talk about education, we are talking about training children in theory, to understand the principles behind a lot of things. And that's the part A of education. Okay. And then in the part B of education would be practical work to get children to actually put their hands on deck and make things happen. Yeah. But if we say that, then you realize that we don't have much practical work at all. Mm-hmm. So we put these children in even when we are not using the double shift system, yeah, we put these children for hours and hours and bombard them with a lot of theory, recitations and so on, and we call that education, which is not true. And that means that a lot of children are not attentive, in the sense that we are not pushing their creativity to the limit. So they become bored. Many children are actually bored with what we call education, because we are not cranking their minds. We need to work with children in a way that their minds are stimulated to be productive, to be creative, and so on. And that's how they grow in life. But we rather teach them to be. We make little tape recorders out of them, and memorizing and
just reproduce.
Yeah. So because you just memorize and regurgitate, mm-hmm, that is not education at all. We need to do something about it, and I think with any luck, we are going to see some changes in that light, because you are not aware of it, but the higher education system has been changed, especially for private higher education. Of course. Of course, there was a new law after that looks at everything. Yeah. And I'm sure you're aware of that.
Of course.
Yes. And so we are talking about the higher education that has changed, and that the secondary school system, that's what feeds the material into the higher schools.
You just carry it on to the next.
So if this one has changed, there is a need to go down here and change this, so that the material that is coming up just fits into it, and then we get a better
and evolve.
Product. Yeah. If we don't do that, it's no use, because we really have been wasting resources and wasting time and calling it education, it is not education.
Like you called it, it's just schooling and not education.
Yeah, we're just schooling. And then, I was going to say something that's even more important.
Okay.
You know, I went to a mission school. I don't know about you, but I went to a mission school.
Yes,
you know CPC Bali, don't you?
Yes, that's it.
Some great schools, A Lady of Lost Sacred Heart, you know, Sase. In these schools, discipline is of the essence.
It's paramount, yeah.
It's paramount.
Yes.
You don't
joke about it.
You don't joke about it. But I mean, you've been here long enough to realize that, in fact, when it comes to discipline, there's nothing to write home about.
Of course.
And that is one of our major problems. Be it a one-shift system or double system, we have failed as far as discipline is concerned. So if it doesn't matter what you're going to train, as long as there's no discipline keyed in, it's useless. Okay. It's really absolutely useless. Because in life, really, I keep saying it, 25% of all our successes are the certificates and the education and the skills and the laboratory things that we do, the technologies, whatever.
Yeah.
Then 75% of our success in life is the character, the ability to interact with others, to live with others, to be part of a community.
The moral ability.
Yes, yeah. But when you don't have that, you're just an intelligent thief. And then, you know, when you're an intelligent thief, it doesn't matter. You can be a minister. You can
and it even makes you more dangerous.
Yeah, you become very dangerous. Very, very dangerous. It was better you are left as an illiterate than an intelligent thief. Yeah, so, and you would have noticed that, I'm sure you are aware about the crime wave in our schools.
Of course.
The teachers have been killed. You know, students have been killing other students and teachers, and all sorts of fights. And there's a total moral breakdown in our school system, and that is a very bad indicator. And you and I were just agreed that because of the double shift system, a lot of children had a lot of time on their hands, and they could play a lot of pranks on their parents and guardians, and then you know, they would not be at school in the morning, they would not be at school in the evening. They will be doing some dirty things in the quartier, drugs.
Just like some civil society members kind of believe that the government took the step, which is supposedly to be for the well-being of the civilians, their health, of course, but they forgot to take into account the fact that these children are going to have a limited time in school. In the first instance, the children were coming to school at 8 to leave school from about 3:15, and then later they have to come at 7:45, for instance, 7:30, and then they're leaving school at midday for the next shift. When they're coming back home, maybe the parents are not there, or even if they're there, sometimes they may find their way to somewhere else. Now, the fear that the government maybe didn't take into account the fact that there is so much time, maybe bring in something to let the children do. Are you of that same opinion, that they may have not strategized appropriately?
If you look at most of the things that we do, I'm of the impression that we never really take time to think things through. We never look. We just whatever comes into our head, we just execute. We don't really think things through. You know, what are the consequences? You know, you don't look at the positives, the negatives, and so on. And then, because if you do the proper study of the situation, then you try to see, I'm going to do this, and this will be the backlash. How am I going to manage this backlash? I don't think we ever go over that, because if they had done that, they would have had the people of the Ministry of Education educating parents on TV, on radio, and so on. Say, look, we are going to be we're going to be with your children from 8 to 12 within this time. Please help us to do this so that we work together as a team. But you can see it's a disconnected kind of thing, and in that disconnection, you know, all the children get missing, and it's really bad. So again, like I was saying, we are trying to assess something. Yeah. We are assessing something, and there's a double layer problem. Yeah. Initially, even when the school system was just running through the day, as I explained, it was not good enough. It was not competitive. And then on top of that, we have put another layer of a mess. Yeah. You understand? So we end up with two problems. In the first system, might be we were able to get our 50% from the kids. In the second system, we probably got less than 25%. So they used a strategy to create another problem in the course of trying to solve one. Yes. And then one other thing, though you didn't mention it. You know, we try to deceive ourselves that we were using TV and the social
online
media
kind
and some online things. That was the greatest deceit of the century. You know why? No. Because number one, our internet doesn't work. Number two, there's no electricity. Number three, very few people have computers, and if they do have smartphones, they're not really good enough for studies. And then then go out there and find out how many people actually have those tools, you know, for studying. Not very few. So you see, it was really just this blanket thing for self-deceit. And don't forget, even under the best circumstances, you know, studying at home using, you know, a good internet connection and with a computer, high speed, the element of self-discipline is supposed to be very high, otherwise you will not succeed.
Of course.
So here we are talking about people in a quartier, they don't even have a reading table, there's playing football outside.
And now they're being given
everywhere.
smartphones.
Yes.
It's at their disposal.
Yeah, and the smartphones, even our university kids who have smartphones, they're using them mostly for TikTok and all this kind of thing. They're not really using them for education.
Strict to the social media platforms.
So we have a whole lot of problems. And most of these are just smoke screens that we hide behind. Oh, we're teaching them on television, but nobody really assesses. Assume that they were teaching them on television in the big cities or so, okay, where you assume things are. What about the people in the villages and so on? So are those not Cameroonians?
Where the internet connection is
There's
poor.
no internet connection, all those things, there's no electricity. So what did we do about those?
Okay.
That's the problem. I'm sure you've seen pictures of supposedly schools up in the north. Some fashion roofs. I mean, talk to me
some
about
basically just sit under a tree and classes
stone
going
and
on.
so on. So talk to me about that. Aren't they Cameroonians?
They are, unfortunately.
So there's a huge problem, and I think there's a lot of deceit, and we ought to just sit up and face our problems and solve them.
With this already guaranteed and accepted by all that they have had to fail a couple of times in the course of this system, do you think there is any way the government can try to correct those errors which have already been committed as they are revamping the traditional system of education? The
thing is, we have I think the French have some, they say, un poids de mesure or something like that. Yeah?
Okay.
You know, sometimes the way we behave, it's very tricky and very embarrassing and very confusing. Because you see, there was the COVID disease, right? Yeah. And then whether the COVID disease is true or false, that's another story, that's another debate.
For another day, yeah.
But let's say there was a COVID disease, right? Okay. Now, and you know, this COVID does not distinguish between school children and adults and so on. But you know that a long time ago, we allowed people to go to the bars and have a drink. Yeah. Then we kept the children still under the COVID thing up till just a few days ago in our airports and so on and so forth. Yeah, the markets were functioning and everything was functioning. So we have a way of doing things. And we have this way of doing things, you know, sometimes people get confused. Yeah. You know, the Minister of Health, just the other day that he came out to say, okay, let's forget about this.
The COVID-19 rules and all that.
But do you remember when they said go back to the bars and continue drinking? Yes, so if quite a long time ago. If people would go back to the bars and continue their drinking, why? And then we've been going to church, no big deal, and so on. So what this fuss about the education? You know, so
it's a little tricky there.
It's just politics.
Okay. And so that is how you look at it. Before we leave, I don't know if we could, you know about the incident which took place in Bamenda yesterday, where more than 9 people were killed by unknown gunmen. What is your take on this kind of a situation?
It's very unfortunate, you know, if you have a wound, and especially you're a diabetic and you have a wound on your leg, and you don't attend to it. You know, you don't give it the right attention, then it's just going to decay. It's one of those things where there's a social problem, yes, a political problem, and we think that we have dealt with it. And others are saying, look, the doctor and the nurse and so on and the medication, there's something wrong in what you've put together. And they said, no, you don't know what you're talking about. But here we are with a saw. Yeah. All right? So we need to accept that whatever we put together as treatment to the problem was not the right thing. And then find out what the right solution is and solve that problem before it becomes a cancer.
We solve the problem before it becomes a cancer. And it's with that by Dr. Ngwanyam that we come to the end of this edition of the Primetime News today. Do stay tuned to more News on Dash News, because here we bring life to your news stories. Bye-bye and have a pleasant evening. Goodbye.